Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to our predictions and speculation for the Bad Batch. This week, we get to talk about two episodes, the mid-season big two-part episode. I want to keep calling it finale, but the show's not ending in mid-season. It's continuing on, but it's interesting that they're doing this. It's going to be Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 7 and 8. Episode 7 is called The Clone Conspiracy, and Episode 8 is called Truth and Consequences. We will be giving you our thoughts on what we think might happen and what we assume will be a big two-parter for the mid-season. But before we do so, please hit that like button down below. Help us get to 30 likes on this video. That would really help us out with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to our channel. Help us get to 1,500 subs. We're on our way there. It's a good goal we think we can hit pretty soon. So help us and be a part of that journey. And if you aren't checking out our JFO live streams, we are doing it every Friday. So if you're watching this on the day it comes out, which we do post these predictions, speculations every single Friday. If this is your first time seeing one, make sure you're tuning in to our JFO live streams. We are live streaming the game, but we're also answering your questions live. So it's a great way to directly interact with us. If you would like to, make sure you're checking out our reviews for the Bad Batch. We posted last Wednesday, our review for episode 6, Tribe with Gunji and the Wookiees. Make sure you check that video out, as well as the bookshelf tour I posted on Monday. We also have a special from Sanak coming out on Monday as well. And then we will be getting back into the Bad Batch again next week, as always. So let's get into these two episodes, episodes 7 and 8. Sanak, any thoughts on what the Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences might mean?
Well, those are definitely two bigger and heavier titles. Everything so far has been, especially these last couple episodes, have just been single word titles. So I think that in some way, maybe one word correlates to a lesser importance of an episode, more of an episodic episode. I think Tribe will be the last of these seemingly inconsequential episodes. What I'm hoping is, especially with a lot of what the early reviewers, the people in the press who got like 14 out of 16 episodes and how they were very positive on the season, I'm hoping that just dealing with our consequences of bringing a Wookiee Jedi back to Kashyyyk, it's gonna finally like come around. I would think that with the ominous sounding names of both these titles, I want to say the whole Bad Batch, past and present, are gonna be playing a role. They might not necessarily cross over and be in the same scenes together, but I can see them, giving different perspectives. I can see Crosshair possibly being on a mission or some sorts that is related to something that the Bad Batch, as we know it right now, has caused. And they both learn different truths, and their environments kind of tell them two different things. The conspiracy, I want to dive into that one first, because I don't know what real conspiracy there could be, right? I think we've already dived into an era that's already well established enough, with the Empire doing what they want, chain codes taking over, reusing technology. It's all going, on paper at least, swimmingly well. These guys are just some random clones that, for a Rampart and possibly a Tarkin, they don't really care much about. But I guess it is going back to your point, Liam, of how do these characters connect with the overall clones and their agency, and I guess the withdrawals of just being ordered around by chip in their brain from Order 66. I think at this point we've reached this sense of, and then we've seen in the premiere episode of people like Wilco saying, no, I reported what I reported, that it was correct, I'm not going to lie, and stuff like that. So we've already seen the signs. I think the conspiracy now could be potentially like an underground sort of communications between different clones, possibly a Cody, probably honestly a Rex, kind of spreading the news about the chips and whatnot. I would like that to be an example of where you see potentially, that spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy, throughout the Holo News and whatnot. And maybe that pushes a lot of these Core 6 and all these planet-based organizations more towards a unified Imperial ISB, sort of progression. I think we've got hints in books like A New Dawn and whatnot of yeah, they control what people do. They have cameras on everybody. This, all that happens. But, they're not the top dogs of like what the ISB is, like shutting down news like we see in Andor. Like when something happens like on Morlana 1, people don't know what's actually happened there. Like when Rogue One, we were on Jeddah and the city is destroyed, they just call it a mining accident, and obviously the ISBs work there. So I would like to see like the whispers of the truth come out and be flushed out there, and maybe you have an ISB dealing with that. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what conspiracy could entail there.
Yeah, I think these are both really interesting titles. Personally, for me, I think we are definitely going to see Rex next episode because they haven't, or based on last season, they don't show you things in the first half of the season in the trailers that aren't in the first half of the season, I guess I should say. So everything we saw in the trailer will be up until this point. We haven't seen Rex yet, and we saw him in the trailers, so I believe that we will see Rex. I think this episode 7, I should say, will start with Rex asking them to go on the mission like he does in the trailer. I think that's going to set us in motion. When I think of conspiracy, though, I think a lot about the government and politics and stuff like that. And I'm thinking the clone conspiracy could possibly come from the clones that are still at the Empire. And maybe this is the first point where we really see not just a Commander Cody, or not just a Captain Hauser, or not just a Commander Rex, or not just the Bad Batch leave individually at times or start little moments. Maybe this is the first time we see an actual moment where a large group of clones in a situation that really the Empire can't afford for clones to turn on them, and basically are like, we're not doing this. This is wrong. I'd like to see that. And maybe that's Truth and Consequences. I think that's going to be what happens in episode 8. And in episode 7, maybe we're starting to see the whispers building. Maybe Crosshair is almost a double agent for Rampart against the clones. I think at this point we've seen Crosshair has chosen his side. He's picked the direction he's going in. I think he's going to ultimately die on that hill, maybe with some slight redemption. But I think we're going to wait until the end of the show for that. So it's not going to be this episode. Crosshair is going to do something that maybe undermines his brothers and undermines his plans. I would love to see Cody back in this episode. I think that would be wonderful to see. And I'd love to see him re-interact with Rex. It'd be so nice to get back to that dynamic. But I think this episode really, for the most part, is going to set in motion what the clones' purpose is in the galaxy and what is going to happen to them, because there's only a few left when we get to Rebels. Where are they? What goes on? We've talked about the Katana fleet so many times. Do the clones go off there? Do they do something else? Are they just completely wiped out? Hopefully the Bad Batch answers those questions by its entire run. I don't know if it will be by the end of the season. I think by the end of the season, though, we are going to get to the point where we have decided the direction the clones are going in. Are they all anti-Empire by the end of the season, or are they just pretty much wiped out and these are the little groups we've got? I think that's going to be the end of the season and ultimately leads towards the future of what the Bad Batch are doing and how Rex decides to do what he does in Rebels. But I think this episode starts it. I think something like the clone conspiracy seems like it's some type of thing from Rampart. Like, we hear whispers of clone uprisings. We are starting to hear that the clones are dissatisfied with the way things are working. We need to find a way to fix it. That's where I'm going. Oh, I could also one last thing I'll mention. It could also be something to do with Mount Tantus. Maybe we get back to some of the cloning there, or Nala Se's role there. That could be interesting as well, but that seems a little big and kind of out of the direction of where we've gone so far with the season. So I think if we save that towards the end. We've said this many times. It's not a mistake that the Bad Batch finale is going to be a couple weeks into The Mandalorian. There's could be some crossover there. Who knows? But talking about 7 and 8, I do think that's where we're going. Sanak, let's talk about the Empire a bit, though, here, because we've talked about the Bad Batch a lot and Captain Rex and Commander Cody. Maybe we should talk about how Rampart and Crosshair will probably interact with this episode, and what also Tarkin. We've seen Tarkin in the trailer, so what could Rampart and possibly Tarkin's plans be here for this episode?
Yeah, when I think of a Rampart, I definitely think of a guy who wants to kind of keep a clean sheet by all means necessary, like we've seen in the premiere episode. We know that he hates letting Crosshair enjoy a nice meal or any rest. So it's a bit of a sadist in that sense. But I'm actually, I'm really unsure of where I think Rampart is going to go. I would like for a supposed mid-season finale to escalate, be kicked up to a different level. Rampart, I think, should be in the position where like a Crosshair has been, and maybe be under the supervision or scolded and reprimanded by a Tarkin or whoever. I think this is where, honestly, we could possibly see our Palpatine appearance too, because it has been shown in the celebration trailer and whatnot. I would like to see Tarkin or someone in charge of him discover, like, hey, all these things that you have supposedly been able to keep track of and whatnot, that's not happening. Or Ryloth, their people are still fighting under Champ Syndulla. These clones, Hauser, that was broadcast around Rex, Cody. People have had rumblings of Wilka, whatever it may be. And yeah, I could honestly see, like you said, Republic Guard before, right? Maybe they're the ones who are refusing to like go up against anti-imperial protesting and all that. Like maybe they're like, no, this is correct and whatnot, and they do lay down their arms and not necessarily join the people, but at least let them continue. And because Rampart has not been in charge, all these little things add up, and then Tarkin gets irritated and lashes out at him. Maybe we see Rampart be shuffled away from being this guy who's in complete control of his image and whatnot, and become a little bit more of a deadlier, scary enemy because he's a little bit less free to do what he wants, and now he's under someone's thumb again. I would like to see Tarkin interact with Palpatine. I know, he's not. I don't know if he's at this point very much focused on the Geonosis project and all that. We're still a little away from him, being in charge and whatnot. But I think when I think of like a Rogue One, I think of Galen Erso and I think of Krennic, and they're all on Coruscant, I would assume at this point. A lot of that research is going on all there. So a lot of these big names presumably are interacting heavily with Coruscant life. And I would think that maybe a Tarkin finding out about this stuff goes to a Palpatine, and Palpatine is like, yeah, okay, this is terrible, but maybe you should input something into your doctrine of fear, right? Your whole Tarkin doctrine of controlling the galaxy. Is there something we can do with the clones here? I think this would be a great time to potentially. I mean, this one's probably one of my far out predictions and speculation, but I would like Order 66 to not just be the worst thing that could happen to the clones. I think we've talked, there's so many videos like Order 67, all these other orders that these clones have been programmed with. I'd like to see maybe Tarkin activate like some order that like deteriorates a clone mentally and physically, like breaks them down. If like a unit is not acting up, I'd like to see them just wither away, like aging is, somehow activated in their bodies. Maybe just their organs start failing. Something that's like very like disturbing and really emphasizes to them that you're just like biological droids to us. We do not care about your personalities, if you're people or whatnot. You are just tools and objects. And I would like to see that doctrine of fear be applied to the supposed enforcers of the galaxy. And once that's enforced, maybe Tarkin pushes back down the Rampart, like, kick it up on Tantus. I need these TK troopers out there instantly. Like, this is not enough. Now we need bodies. I need you to cut your standards a little bit. I need more people out there, even if I don't like it. And I'd like just to, whatever mini rebellions that are being sprouted by the clones themselves, I like them to be just squished from Palpatine down.
I think that's a really interesting point because the inhibited ships, I think, are coming back. We already saw with this last episode with the Jedi, it was about Order 66, and there are lines about Order 66 and connecting back to the Jedi. I think it's really important. And the title clone conspiracy, we were talking about this off camera a few weeks ago. It makes me think of the episode called Conspiracy, also in season 6 of the Clone Wars with the Fives episodes. So I think if we're looking at the Imperials, the clones have a really strong sense of brotherhood, and we have yet to see in the Bad Batch Imperials directly attack clones in front of clones, right? There's the Bad Batch who are always kind of been othered from the rest of the clones and are labeled, enemies of the Empire. But what's a loyal soldier? Just a random clone, not a high ranking clone, maybe just someone and his partner here, his brother, if they're just shot because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, stuff like that, violence towards the clones, I think will set off the clones. And we have yet to see any form of that brought towards the clones. And I think there's such a strong brotherhood. The only time we really see clones betrayed by their superiors is in the Clone Wars with Pong Krell. So they'd immediately turn on him. I think we could see that here. If from the Imperial perspective, if a Rampart is too hard on the clones, or one of the clones just doesn't just mysteriously disappear or leaves, right, but actually is shown being killed or assassinated or put down in front of a large group, I think that could really kickstart this whole thing into just the grunt type clones, the ones who haven't made a name for themselves, maybe the younger clones who just started at the end of Revenge of the Sith in the army, those clones finally realizing, growing into, oh, this is not right. Like, this is not what we're bred for. Those realizations that maybe clones like a Rex or a Cody learned at the beginning of the war, those are imprinted on the younger clones that might still be in the Imperial Army now. I think that's an interesting perspective, and it would be really cool to see Palpatine. Also, would love it to be Ian McDiarmid. I don't think they've confirmed if it is Ian McDiarmid or Sam Witwer yet, but we got McDiarmid in the Tales of the Jedi episode, so I would love to see him reprise the role of Palpatine here. But I'm pretty sure it's in the trailer. It sounds like his voice, so I think we're getting it. But yeah, I'd love to see that because Five's thing ultimately all tied back to Palpatine. Like Palpatine was in those episodes. It would be really cool to see the inhibitor chip stuff brought back. And it would be really neat to have some type of future type of mind control affect the way the clones view it. Because they don't, for all we know, clones don't in general, they don't know about the inhibitor chips. None of them. Like Tech knows, Rex knows because of Fives, but it's still very secret. So maybe they find out that they're being mind controlled. It's all coming back to that. And I think there's no coincidence that the Clone Conspiracy is very close to the title of those Order 66 episodes in the Clone Wars Conspiracy. I think that's what's going to go down next episode. But those are our thoughts. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen in next week's 2-part mid-season episode? Thanks for watching. Hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 1,500 subs. We're on our way there. Check out our JFO live stream tonight if you're watching on Friday. And if you aren't, make sure you tune in every Friday for Q&As and JFO live streams. Also, make sure you're checking out our other videos we posted and our continued Bad Batch coverage. We'll be back next week reviewing these 2 episodes on Wednesday mornings, every Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. PST. And then we will be talking about episode 9 predictions next Friday. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.